I'm going to be talking in the raw about religion, brain surgery, 41 days of fasting, chronic lymphocytic leukemia as it pertains to high-risk mutation version of it. I'm going to be talking about health. I'm going to be talking about spirituality in the raw here. And I'm going to start by whether it's the Christians or the Catholics. Ramadan is coming up. If you look at the intellectual old books from the religion, from the scholars like the Pythagoras days, from you look at the different cultures on earth, from the Asians, the Africans, the migration to the North America. If you look at all the old ancestors, from the Vikings, from the natives, and if you look at geographical, if you look at culture, if you look at religion, and you look at all the old books, they have something in common, and it's fasting, right? Fasting is there; it's in common. Breaking your fast is in common because it has to do with what is the intent of breaking the fast. And the fast is about introducing the most nutrient to your body to keep it clean. And fasting, whether it's religion or culture, and if you look at religion, for example, fasting has, like, it's about cleansing the mind. And when you look at the world, all the old books, the cleansing of the mind, when you look at the pineal gland, the detoxification, if you look at all the old books from the scholars of religion and the cultures, the reason for fasting is for health. It's for mental health. It's for physical health. It's for spiritual health, right? That's the intent. That's the commonalities. If you look at their commonalities, right? The commonalities is fasting is about mental health, spiritual health, mechanical health. It's about all that health. And then when I look at my high-risk mutation of chronic lymphocytic leukemia, from the onset, I've had these head pressures. Like I've talked about the axe feeling in the forehead and, like a protruding nail. But I'm going to give it to my mother. My mother had 7 years. Her last 7 years of life was with A.L.S. And within the A.L.S., she had bowel cancer. She had to have the surgery while she had A.L.S. She's on life support. She was stomach fed. So A.L.S., those that don't know it, that's the devil itself, right? A.L.S., your brain is fully intact. Your hearing is fully intact. Your eyesight's fully intact. So you can understand and comprehend and hear everything. However, everything else is dead. Every one of your muscles, every one of your limbs. So I want you to lay on your back for the rest of your life, and I want you to look up at the ceiling and stare at it for the next, whatever years, a decade, 15 years, like 3 months. But I want you to do it. Stare at the ceiling and don't move. And the only time you're going to move is people are going to move you. All right. So when I say the devil itself, so even though if you're at year 3, 4, 5, you can't communicate. You can't. Your limbs die. Everything dies. So there comes a point where you can't communicate. Your eyes are wide open, right? Staring at the ceiling. That's A.L.S., the devil himself. And then she had the bowel cancer. And in there, she kept a smile on. Like, she was always smiling. Her church was full of family and those that loved and respected her, but also filled with people from the hospital, the durations, the different places she was at. And it's because that smile she carried, right? My parents taught me a lot of strength, and Lord knows I needed the last couple of years, but for a lot of reasons. But my parents taught me this strength without saying a word, because I saw my mom always keeping that smile on her face during the demon itself, right? And people loved her. They respected her, and it was very strong. She was very Catholic. She wanted to live. I promised her that's what she wanted, right? She wanted to live it to the end, no matter how long this journey took her. And it took her 7 years. You'd walk into the room, and just when she was with family, rivers would be pouring down the side of her face. And the depth of her hurt, you could see it in her soul, right? And she could be screaming, turn off the fucking machines, right? She could have been screaming that at times. Couldn't communicate it, right? And we kept her promise that she wanted to live. She wanted to live to the end. She was Catholic, and she believed in prayer and holy water and everything. Anyways, that woman taught me to maintain a smile. And there's days that cranial pressure that I have in my brain, and the that I've had since July of 2022, which I've talked about. The first time I got affected by such, I've never had headaches in my life. I'm 58 years old. I've never had headaches. Like I've had hangovers, had a lot of those, but I wasn't a headache guy. Like I wasn't a headache guy. Did it happen in my lifetime? Absolutely, but I wasn't a headache guy. They primarily came from hangovers. And then when I got COVID, February of 2022, I was hit with these weird type of, it started that way. It basically started with this shroom in the brain, and my brain felt weird. And then those that were around me, like my family and I had friends that see me after the after effect, and they were freaking out how much it affected me that when I got COVID. And then that was February 2022. March 2022, I went and got blood work right away. And I have always, those have been following me for 5 years. I have all the data. When I say I have 5 years of data. I have 5 years of data from feces work, from urine work, from blood work, from CT scans, from MRIs, from endoscopies and colonoscopies, and MRIs, like everything, right? I have 5 years of documentation, data that I've been keeping and tracking. And during my 41 days, I've tracked all the data. And then I like out of pocket again, always out of pocket, all the extras out of pocket, because the system only covers so much. And then I always paid like $100, $125 every time out of pocket. And I throughout my 41 days, I had a different type of out of pocket service, which was blood and urine during the 41 days. And I brought my body, and I'm going to go back to my head pressures here. Those head pressures I've had since I had them in COVID, right? During February 2022, by mid-March 2022, it kind of disappeared, those head pressures. But then when I got the test, the blood work, the full blood work, out-of-pocket blood work, off the chart. Off the chart biomarkers. In hindsight, it's cancer, right? It's just warning bells. But, you know, it was because I had COVID bad, they attributed it to COVID. And then by July of 2022, the head pressure started. Those COVID head pressures came back, and I've never not had them since July 2022, except for during the 41 days of fasting. And they came back really good, really good. By January, I full on back. What's interesting is, why did they disappear? And if you look at the old books, and you look at the Catholics, you look at the Ramadan, and if you look at Christianity, Lent, and like the reason why they do so is for cleansing, cleansing of the mind, cleansing of the body, cleansing of the spirituality, right? And for that cleansing, I did a cleansing for 41 days. And halfway through the 41 days, I said to my family, my head pressures are gone. Like, I've been waking up with a fucking hangover since July of 2022. Literally. Like, it doesn't matter if my wife gets up at 5 in the morning, if I get up at 5 in the morning, if we get up at 7 in the morning on Sunday, whatever, it doesn't matter what time. My brain, like, gets on at around 4 a.m. and I don't want to open my eyes. And it's like you wake up with this fucking shriek. Like the accent of forehead and the protruding nail, and it starts in your teeth. It goes all the way through your nose bridge into your brain, into your forehead when you're thinking and that kind of stuff. And then and I wear a smile, and I'm going to tie into. I told you this conversation was raw, but I thinking of my mom, and I do it with a smile. I've learned, you know, in life, I've never been that, for the most part. Everybody makes their mistakes in that, but I'm not one of those that wears their emotions on their sleeve, right? I try not to, anyways. Trust me, I've done it, and like everybody else in humanity. But you know, there's people that do it all the time. But I'm not that guy. Just like I'm not the guy that gets headaches, right? And then, but during that 41 days, data-wise, like urine, and I had the highest ketone readings ever. In those 5 years of taking the urine work, feces work, like urine work, blood work, all those tests, like I beyond the mechanical, the actual biomarker test that I had 5 years, I never flagged all the way through. And I was using, during the 41 days, I've talked about it, 0 calories, like no food in my mouth and nothing. And I did this certain supplements. and these supplements, from your electrolytes. And I talked about the people where like non-calorie causing, no flavors. The electrolyte, for example, was a liquid I could add to anything. You could add it to coffee. It doesn't matter. Add to water, to tea, add to anything, orange juice. There's no. I don't drink orange juice, but I'm talking like coffee and green tea, that kind of stuff. But if you want to add it to your Coca-Cola, if you want to add it to your orange juice or apple juice in the morning, there's no calorie, but there's no flavor into it, right? So you can add to anything, and that's electrolytes. I did that, and I did my creatine monohydrate. Again, no calorie and no flavor, basically. I added that to my water. I added my apple cider vinegar with mother to my water every morning, non-calorie causing, again, no calories. I did an exogenous ketone experiment. And the exogenous ketone, curcumin also. Curcumin, because curcumin is an inhibitor of cancer, and it also augments autophagy, right? Beyond the anti-inflammatory like wonders that it does. So the exogenous ketone, and I wanted to bring my body to the highest ketone possible, right? And that was Thomas Seyfried, Professor Thomas Seyfried, major data on his findings in that. And if I take the work of Walter Longo, if I take the work of True North Institute in California, if I take the work of Professor Thomas Seyfried, right? If I listen to all the professionals that I've been listening to for years in the world of holistic, integrative, precision, lifestyle, like functional type medicine, when I look at all those worlds and all those doctors and all those professionals with 20, 30, 40 years and institutions that are hundreds of years old or have 50,000 files or 100,000 files or 200,000, whatever, all those combined files worldwide. And those individuals that I listen to, and I put the tapestry together and I put the pieces of the puzzle together, and I look at all the religions now, the data is there. And when you cleanse yourself through long fasts and what it does to you. And that's why the old books and the religions and Ramadan, they all have the different style of it from Lenten. So some people do the 40-day, 40-night. Like if you look at Jesus and Moses and Pythagoras and like if you look at all that, they were following old practices, spiritual, mental, and physical practices. That's why they did it. Right? And it doesn't matter from Asia and Africa, they do it for the cleansing. And my head pressures disappeared during that 41 days. And I mentioned it to my family, and it's the only time, and it's back. So think about that. There's a case in the US, and I sent it to my oncologist, where an individual, again with CLL type cancers, blood cancers, and this is pretty much my cancer that this gentleman has. I ended up with brain surgery. Brain surgery because the cranial pressures get so big. Like I said to people, I've never been at zero. If I was to do a scale of 0 to 10, my head pressures since July of 2022 have been between 1 and 10. They've never been at zero. And the only time they've been at zero was during my 41 days of fasting, where I brought my body to the lowest glucose possible. I had nothing. I didn't eat any food for 41 days. I've said this multiple times. I've given my hours, but I did not have any consumption of food for 41 days. No solid. So I brought my body down to the lowest glucose glutamine, but I brought my brain up to the highest ketone, and I've proven it. Right? I have the data that you're. But something between those two, combination thereof, in combination with the fast or the fast on its own, something caused me to have those biomarkers. And this is why Thomas Seyfried brought me back, and he's interested in that because I look at the case with the brain study, for example, the gentleman that had the brain surgery. Well, and I sent that to my oncologist. I don't want to wait for brain surgery because my head pressures have never been. I'm gonna, like I said, it's never been zero, but in between 1 to 10, I'm gonna say it's been 1 to 5, right? If I'm gonna put a pain scale on, I don't think, and I don't want to find out what 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 feels like, right? And I've said this before. I don't want to find out, and I don't want to find out if like individuals that end up getting brain surgery because they got into level 7, 8, 9, 10, right? There's people in Canada, you get M.A.I.D program. And again, I have nothing against the M.A.I.D program in Canada. I said this is raw for obvious certain cases, right? However, the number one priority, if I was the Minister of Health, if I was the Minister of Population Health in Canada, and all those individuals that have a dying need to put everyone on the M.A.I.D program, and it doesn't matter, right? They want to put everyone and everything. They have a dying need to do that, to put everybody and everything on the M.A.I.D program in Canada. But those that think intellectually and understand that such a program is important. But if I was the Minister of Population Health, the number one criteria you would have to go through is the spirituality, the culture, the teachings, the intellects, the the pyramid builders of the world, those that a lot of the dyslexic minds and a lot of the minds, a lot was done in forums, and they would teach each other, and they would teach each other with words. If you look at the war that's going on in Canada right now on nutraceuticals in the health space, like there's lawyers fighting Health Canada right now in Canada, in the health space about what's going on, and because the federal government went and put this federal government that they put a bunch of measures right now on the health space, and lawyers have been like, boom, like it's just a lot of awareness is being raised, so much so that I've seen the Green Party, Elizabeth May, and Pierre Poilievre in the Conservatives, and there's other politicians that are now writing letters to the members of Parliament and so forth, and that commonality is beautiful. That commonality, and if you look at the old books and the religions and the cultures, and from the Pythagoras and the Jesus, and the Green Party and the Conservatives, for example, in Canada, and all in between, are coming together because they know it's wrong. They know it's wrong because there's a lot of value to that. Not everything is medicine. And I'm not against medicine. Not everything is medical surgeries, and I have nothing against medical surgery. In fact, I love modern medicine. The technology of, right? And you combine that with fasting, and you combine that lifestyle. That's just why I jumped over the fence and I went to the functional, integrative, holistic lifestyle, precision medicine world, and brilliant individuals that teach that. And so that's what they do. They combine that, and then I went deep into the rabbit hole. I followed those that put it into practice. I found individuals, not many, I found individuals that did 40 days and 40 nights and documented. Those that I like the way I did, like no food and non-calorie causing, like my black coffees and green teas and waters and sparkling waters. Those were my liquids. I made yellow birch mushroom teas. Again, non-calorie causing, no calories. I would do a lot. I actually have very good tea. Those that know how to do it, it's very interesting. Russian friends of mine got me started on it, and then I started, I started working on my own recipes, and I created my own recipe. And it's delicious. It's absolutely delicious, and it's a great tea. But again, the old values, the old books. And that's what I was drinking during those 41 days. So I've documented all the food that I took. I documented everything. I documented every single day of that 41 days. But in that 41 day, something caused my brain to go back to normal. The cranial pressures disappeared. And I'm going to tie it to the spirituality of the 41 days. I'm going to tie it to the ketosis, my exogenous ketone process, the ketosis stage that I reach. I'm going to tie it to the glucose being like I had no food. So that I went so deep into low that combination, maybe just 41 fasting alone. I talked about the last 10 days, how very spiritual that that the realms I went into when I went into deep comatose, even with 5 weeks of insomnia. But call that decalcification, call it something, but something caused my brain to lose those cranial pressures, and they all came back. And that's what's interesting. And this is what I talk about Ramadan coming up, and Lent. Like, if you look at all the religions, right? There's a reason why you're doing that. It's to detoxify, to cleanse you. And a lot of you will say out there, like, during Ramadan, and my neighbor tells me that during Ramadan, his acid reflux disappears. And he goes, I eat clean. He goes, but when I do Ramadan, he goes, they do eat clean. You see their property, the vegetable, it's gorgeous. The fruits and vegetables and the trees and like what they've done is well. And he's from Africa, she's from Russia, and they do a lot of amazing work by hand. A lot of amazing work, a lot of lessons learned there, growing food, and we did the 7-day Adventists. When we did our trees, we went to the old books of the old values and the teachings, and the way we planted our trees. So when I look at their property and they're using all their old ways and that, they're right. You should see what they have. My God. Anyways, my point to that is, he says, I eat clean, and he does. And they do, and he goes, but my acid reflux truly disappears during Ramadan. He goes, it disappears, then it eventually comes back. Then I cleanse it again, right? So for me, that head pressure. Now I can't do 41 days for the rest of my life. But I'm gonna figure it out. I'm gonna figure something out. I'm gonna share my data with Thomas Seyfried. I'm gonna be putting it all together and help people, right? And then, like I said, I do not want that head surgery. Now, this is a long video. Right? Am I up to 23 minutes? I told you it was wrong. I'm going to ramble on here. I like Led Zeppelin, Ramble On. Reminds me of my youth, that song. Love that song. Anyways, I told you I'd talk about religion, that I would talk about cancer. I'd talk about, if you look at the high-risk mutation of chronic lymphocytic leukemia, and the type of cancer that I have, like the TP53s and the P7 deletions and HGHV and all those little things that they came out with, that's why they put me immediately on treatment. As soon as they basically started me at stage 3-4, immediately on brukinzatinib, which I'm glad I am, based on research that I found. But in combination with the lifestyle I'm living, I'm going to prove it. I don't want to be I don't want to wait for brain surgery. I don't want to be on medication for the rest of my life, and I don't want to accumulate to other medications. Hence why there's a world for both, just like M.A.I.Ds, right? There's a world for M.A.I.Ds, there's a world for medication, but there's also a world for healthy living, to fasting, the values of the old religions, the values of the old books, the values of the intellectual values of religions and cultures and teachings and forums. And, like, how dare you try to stop that? The humanity, just like the natives out in British Columbia, and they had been saying forever about the old people, the old tribes, and the old cultures and everything. And then they found this place in you can pull it up in British Columbia. It goes back to the first settlers, and well, at least 10,000 years ago, right? They talk about Vikings, they talk about the natives and the Aboriginals, and like all the cultures in Canada, specifically Canada. If you look at all the world, there's everything, right to to the first bloodlines. How far back we're going to go, but they passed on values. Humanity didn't start 100 years ago. It didn't start in 1903. 1903, now we're going to do the Abraham Flexner Report, and we're going to start doing this way. No, thousands of years from the original bloodlines passed on information. How do you think they built the pyramids? How do you think that passing on? Like, look at the Italians and a lot of the cultures on Earth, and look at what they built. Like, look what they built. Look what the Egyptians built. Like, look what the Romans built. There's a lot of places on Earth. They built a lot of things that amaze people today. But it's because they passed it on. Like, they passed on the values of health and the value of spirituality. So there's a world for that. And again, how dare you try to stop it? So, like I said, there's a war in Canada on that. But I'm gonna keep working. I'm gonna keep sharing. I'm gonna keep helping. I'm gonna keep passing on. And it's us within our community globally, if we keep sharing the true values and the teachings, like how did I get rid of severe sleep apnea and devices? How did I get rid of acid reflux, the heartburn, that colonoscopy, and endoscopies? I mean, colonoscopy. That's far up there. But in the endoscopies, proven that the heartburn and the acid reflux and that, the like the viticular, like all those stuff that I have, and the dissipation of, or the disappearance of, like my calcium and arthritis. I remember like going up the stairs, for Christ's sake, we get up a chair, and now it's like, I'm not gonna say it's gone, but I'm gonna say 90% gone. It's amazing. The degenerative disc disease that I have, and the electrocutions in my leg, like, are they gone? No. Are they 90% gone? Yes. Like that big difference. I have these lesions in my spine that I'm working on. Like I'm working on. They're not gone. Like I'm doing. That's why I train every day. Like I have to. If I don't train every day, if I don't live my fasting, fitness, flexibility, nutrient dense, Mediterranean, plant-based, whole food lifestyle, I don't want to know what I'd be like, right? If I was the old Jean-Guy, like I said, I'd probably be dead by now, or sleeping a lot, or something. But this Jean-Guy, like, if I didn't do that, I know I wouldn't be where I am. From wisdom-wise, from physicality-wise, from medical side-wise, how did I get rid of all those conditions? And I've talked about the inhalers and the fatty liver. How did I get rid of all those, right? Like it disappeared, dissipated, or reversed, or arrested, reduce my biological age. How did I do that? I did that by fasting, fitness, flexibility, nutrient dense, Mediterranean, plant-based, whole food, values of the old books of religion, old books of cultures, old books of teachings, old books of forums, right? That's how I did it. So, happy Ramadan that is coming up. Those that follow Lent, God bless. And those that follow the values of the old books and spirituality, those that go at peace before a meal. And it doesn't have to be you're praying to anything. You can go at peace. You can pray to your faith. You can pray to your heart and soul. You can go at peace. But proven, those that go at peace before consuming a meal, right, are part of the top 10, that are part of the longevity platforms. If you look at those around the world, like from the Seventh-day Adventists in Loma Linda, California, right, or like, and I tell people, like, it doesn't matter if it's religion or culture or geographical area. It's those that eat closest to the earth. And the reason why I brought up the Seventh-day Adventists in Loma Linda, California, there was a study that was done on them. And if you take that, they teach all the time the values of the old books, which is internal health, which is eating from the earth as close, as clean, as organic as possible, right? They, if you look at the pandemic of 1903, that big pandemic, if you look at that one, the elite were going to the sanitarium of the Seventh-day Adventists. At the time, they used to call them sanitariums, but they'd be like hospitals today. So they were going to their facilities because they found out that people that would go in there with severe pandemic-related viruses and that, from the big plague there, that the big one in 1903 era, those that went to their hospitals, the Seventh-day Adventists, were coming out and walking out. They were doing cold water therapy, imagine that. They were doing like the fasting type lifestyle, the nutrient density, the whole food. Like there's the big Russian study that was done in a psychiatric hospital, like Igor Nikoliev, if I recall his name. And like in his career, this man worked on over 10,000 patients, I believe the numbers are, from schizophrenia to like severe mental health. And he reintroduced them to societies, to families, to businesses, to having children, to being productive members of society by going and making them go through 30 days of fasting, 7 days of fasting, vegetarianism, nutrient dense, plant-based, all that stuff. Return them to society. Let that sink in, right? Anyways, yeah, I just rambled on, but it's an open book right now. Of knowledge out there. And I've said to people, I went down so far down the rabbit hole that I passed China, I went straight into Jupiter, and I have a whole galaxy of knowledge still to learn. I have, like I said, keep saying I have over 10,000 hours. I'm sure it's going to be 5 years 5 years on coming up in June 3rd, 2019, is when I started this journey, from an experience I had in 2017 that opened my eyes, and I researched 2017, 2018, right into 2019, kicked it into gear on June 3rd, 2019, never looked back, never missed a day of fasting since. And I keep raising my bar nutrition, I keep raising my knowledge. Now I'm into full genetics. I like the biomarkers and all that stuff, and I research every keyword of everything. There's a lot of things that I found out, and I say to people, it is I, this guy here that I'm looking at, it is I that created my diseases. I take full responsibility of all that. And because I cause comorbidities, even though I look strong and big and all that stuff, you can have ripped abs, and you could be, and I tell people all the time, it doesn't matter. It has nothing to do with shape and sizes, right? There's people that call themselves, they look fit, but they start with sugary everything. They eat processed everything, but they have muscles, right? Or those that, they don't look fit, but they've never taken a pill in their life, and they eat so clean, right? And but they're full of life, like real life, right? And they're healthy minded, they're healthily physical. It has nothing to do with shape and size. That's why those that I've sat with have never talked about fat loss. I talk about internal health, because I learned that. I had promised myself I would never yo-yo diet again, and I never did. Never went backwards. Don't be impressed by the fact that I lost all that weight. I tell people, be impressed by the fact that I lost over 120 pounds. I never put it back on. I've only fluctuated 10 to 15 pounds in nearly 5 years now. I got rid of all the medication without ever putting it back on. Then I got hit with cancer. But if I wouldn't have been, so spiritually, if I wouldn't have had that experience, if I wouldn't have had that experience in 2017, and there was a huge spirituality about that process that I experienced across this country working with veterans, and that spirituality opened up a lot of doors for me in my mind, and I started researching, and it brought me to where I am today. So I'm very, very, very thankful for that. But because if I wouldn't have done that, and when I got the cancer, I can document it here. I can trace it. First signs of it. Remember, right up until February 2022, all those years of everything from biomarkers and urine work and feces works and scans and etc., I never had cancer. Zero, nada. And then February 2022, I get COVID. March 2022, I go in and get full blood work, pay out of pocket an extra $125, got everything done. And off the chart, like everything's like lit up like a Christmas tree, right? And then it proceeded lighting up like a Christmas tree, and I pushed for that third colonoscopy, which I ended up getting in January of 2023. It was my third colonoscopy in 6 years and 14 months or something like that. I got married 5 years, and I had one 14 months prior. So anyway, I had pushed for another one because I knew there's a lot of things that were transpiring, and I knew. And then, lo and behold, I got a call on February 8th. I was in Mexico and with my family, and to tell me that they found a chronic lymphocytic leukemia in my biopsy of my colonoscopy. And then from that, it evolved to February 9th. I became the pure plant-based pescatarian, no alcohol, nada, man. Like I'm clean, I as clean as I can right now, and I keep trying to raise my bar all the time. But that February 8th, I made those lymph nodes disappear that I talked about in the past. I made my night sweat disappeared. I made it, and they come back once in a while. The night sweats after that 41-day fast, that's an interesting thing too. My night sweats came back. Now they balanced off again. They're balancing off again. So it's all these data and stuff, that documented stuff is so important to teach. Like I said, I don't want to have brain surgery. I don't want to find out what 7, 8, 9, 10 is. I don't want to find out, why people choose M.A.I.D. I don't want to find out. Right? I'm going to do everything that I can to beat this and make it my duty to teach while I continuously learn. Big, healthy, strong, loving hugs from me, Jean-Guy Bourguignon, to you. Love you all.